We've been blending and drawing objects that look real, but I haven't given you the essential secret to making them look real: light and shadow. Light and shadow make or break most traditional artworks, so understanding what is happening is critical. Now, the basic concept is intuitive. Light makes things lighter and shadow makes things darker. So let me go back into my gallery here for a second, and let's pick up an example of one here. Let's go this one right here. And so you may have remembered this from an earlier episode, and you can see what's going on here. We have on here light that's coming in from the left, and that means that there will be light on the objects on the left side. There will be shadow on the right side. There's also a cast shadow on the bottom, which is coming onto whatever surface these are on, cast by those objects. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, there's some certain rules that you can follow that work quite well to get you an idea of what you're doing as you're thinking this out and trying to come up with some nice light and shadows. Now, I've made a little graph here for you. You'll find this in the downloads page for this lesson. You can make this yourself. Just get a new canvas, break it into 9 pieces, and put arrows facing all these different directions. The arrows are the light that you're going to be using. So it says this is my direction of light. I have been pretty much doing this one and this one for all my examples so far. But let's take a look at some of these and see how that works. Now, I'm going to start here with the classic one that I do is the left. Let's go get our brush, and I'm assuming you have everything set to charcoal. I'm going to bring this down to 1% to start. I'm just going to make a quick cylinder here to give us an idea. Okay, so suppose I got a cylinder like this. Now, where the light is going to be hitting is going to be the same as that first side, in this case, the left side. One thing you may want to do when you start seeing that is make a bit of a background. That way it's easier to erase and to have white show up directly. And so I'm just put down my opacity a little bit. I'm going to put up my size a little bit here. And I'm just going to put here a little bit of shading to say, okay, that's going to be my light side. Now on my dark side, which I'm going to go up on my opacity a bit, I will have my shadow. And so there's my shadow. And I will also have the cast shadow. And depending on where this is coming from, you'll have a cast shadow that'll be longer or shorter. The longest cast shadow will be, in this case, which is the directly hitting the object. Now you're going to have midtones in between that, which is where we get into our gradient. So I'm going to come down to about 36 here and start filling some of this in. And let's zoom it in a little bit better, now that you know where the light is. Okay, and I may come back here with my eraser. Now I don't need those lines, so I can go ahead and just get rid of the line completely and come straight up to the background. And that makes for a nice, sharp edge, okay? And then, of course, we can blend, as we've been doing. And I'll bring up my blender here. And then just blend that together, like so. And you've got yourself an image. And you see I'm doing this L thing. There does seem to be a little bit more shadow on the bottom, and that's usually a lip or something like that on the container. If it's a solid container, it's probably going to come all the way down to the end here like this. So I can get rid of that, like so. And you can now zoom back out, and there you go. That's a simple one. Let's try another one, and I'm going to do the one on top here. So let's go do this, and I'm going to use a different object this time. I'm going to use a sphere. You can try that one next. And so we got a sphere. My light is on this side, so I'll have some dark here to work against my sphere, and this will be where I start erasing. And over here is my shadow and my cast shadow, like so, which is a much shorter one than the other one because it's higher up. The higher you go, the shorter that shadow. And then we've got our midtones in between, like we did before, like that, okay? And then I can go in with my eraser and say this is here, and then just start blending all that together. Like that. And I'm going to just blend this out like that just so it looks better. And as you can see, that makes a pretty good sphere, and we got a good sense of where the light and the dark are. And I would probably go a little bit more with the dark in here, given where my shadow is. But that's pretty much what we're going to be doing there. All right, so that's another example. Now let's go change my light source over to the other side. And again, I'm going to use a cylinder on this one. So let's go down to about 1%. And I'm going to bring up my opacity a little bit here. And I want to talk about something else. What happens when you have an object that's hollow? I've been assuming that this top up here has been a solid object. What if it's a can that's open? And then you've got stuff that light is going to be coming through. Here, it's not going to be as big an issue as it will be for up here. And let me put another one up here because we'll talk about that one too. Okay. We'll have these two cases that I want to look at. It's the same deal. I mean, you're going to look at it and then analyze it the exact same way. I'll go up a little bit here on my brush and say, okay, my light source is here, so my darker background is here, so I get a nice contrast. And I have my shadow over here. I'm going to actually bring this down a little bit. And then I got my midtones in here. Okay. I can do a little bit of erasing right in here for my light. So that's that. Now, in this case, I'll probably use my blender here. If I zoom in here, I'm going to use the blend. And that top will be a solid top, which is what we've been doing so far. Okay. And this is close to what you'd get, but you're going to start seeing here, as soon as you get away from this perfect horizontal light, that weird things are going to start happening. And that's because this surface here is going to have the opposite effect as the surface that you're using. So if I were to look at this, I'd really, and I'm going to go bring my brush down a bit here, I'd really start seeing dark in here. Okay. And I'd be seeing light over here because the side that is facing the light, the opposite part of that surface is going to be in the dark. You're going to see the side that has the light on the outside is going to have dark on the inside, and the side that has dark, I'll pop that up a little, and this side here, which has dark on the outside, is going to have light on the inside. And so you start blending that together. And it'll be even more prominent the more you move your light source up. You'll start seeing where that light source is will have more light or more dark. So here I'm going to see, for example, a lot of dark on here, but I'll also see a lot of light over here, which requires an eraser. Okay. And so you'll start seeing that kind of blend going on as we do this. And you start getting things like that. So that's what you're going to be doing. You can do it with other shapes too. We've got it with a sphere. We've done it with cylinders. It works similarly with boxes. So let's do one box to give a point here. I'm going to do one from the top. Okay, and so we've got ourselves a box. If we have an interior surface, which I'll put that line in there for the interior surface, we're going to see different effects than we would otherwise. I'm going to see the same kind of light that I'm getting before. How direct this is, because if we're saying it's overhead, how overhead, that's going to make a difference. So I'm going to say that it's a little bit front and overhead. I'm getting this front side is going to be very light and doesn't have a lot of color. Okay, doesn't have a lot of shading. Just a bare amount of shading. The surface behind it, that's also in the light because it's now looking at that camera light. So I'm going to put that one the same. And how the light affects those two planes that are perpendicular to it, that's going to be a little darker. So that might be a little darker like this. And we just barely see a shadow behind it, depending on where this light source really is. You're going to get something that looks more like that. That gives you some idea of what to do with this. Is you're going to take this rule that I've been using, which is set out a darker background against where you'll be erasing for the side with the light. Put in your shadow and your cast shadow on the side that will be dark, which is the opposite side of the light. If you have, as in this case, a hollow object, flip that around for the interior surfaces of that hollow object. And with that in mind, I want you to try to do your next challenge. Now, I've got a couple of these already made for you. I got a couple of them set up for you right here, where I've done this exercise for you and shows you a couple of ideas of how this light is going to work if it exists. Okay, so in all those directions. So try to do an exercise like this. I've given you some blank pages. So for example, with the spheres, you've got the circles already made. You just have to fill in the circle so that you get the correct light and dark. And again, you can use my stuff as reference, so you can do that. And I've got one for both the cylinders and the spheres and the boxes, so you can give that a shot. The two in the middle, I do want to mention that, are backlit and forward lit. So the top one is going to be a forward lit, which is really relatively easy. It's just going to be the light is going to be right in the center. And a backlit is incredibly simple because it's just a silhouette. You have no light coming towards you. You may get, like this one, a little bit of an aura on the outside, but that's about it. So go ahead and try to fill out those matrices, download them into Procreate, and play around with them and see what you can do. And again, as usual, if you have any questions, go ahead and tweet me at Steve_Lipton on Twitter. And I can take a look and repost whatever you want me to as well. Now, go ahead and have some fun with all this light stuff. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel for more videos in this series and some of my other tutorials. You'll find drawing resources at my website, and I have links in the description below for those. Now go ahead and create something beautiful. It was a little long.